It's February 3rd, 2011. Stu Journalism and the New Brunswick Beacon present The Basement Tapes.
Hi, I'm Jen Bishop.
And I'm Kaylin Bean.
Welcome to the first episode of Stu Basement Tapes in 2011. Today we're coming to you from Officer Square in downtown Fredericton. Coming up, thawing out in a tanning bed has become harder in New Brunswick.
Haiti, a year later.
And the return of the Jedis in Fredericton.
But first, let's take a look at an ongoing provincial issue.
Some people are calling it pointless LaPro. Opposition is growing to the reopening of New Brunswick's only nuclear power plant. As Laura Brown tells us, this is because of a decision to hold a key meeting out of province.
Is not in the public interest.
Environmentalist David Thompson is tired. He had hoped these words would end a fight over the refurbishment of Point LaPro, but he was wrong. 9 years ago, the New Brunswick Energy and Utilities Board told NB Power the refurbishment shouldn't go forward. But they were ignored. The Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission held a public hearing last week in Ottawa. It was to decide the fate of Point LaPro's license. This left 21 New Brunswick lobby groups out in the cold. They couldn't afford to make it to the capital city. Thompson is a member of the Fundy Baykeeper, one of the 21 groups feeling the chill.
Hearings are only public hearings if the public can participate.
To date, the plant's improvements have cost the province over $1 billion. Its completion has been set back 3 years, now until 2012. At one time, the nuclear generating plant produced up to 30% of the province's power. So is it worth it? Raphael Shea of the Conservation Council of New Brunswick says no. Shea is the council's energy program coordinator. He says the fight isn't just about money.
We are 60 or 70% water, so when we pollute water, we pollute ourselves. We're air that we breathe, so when we pollute the air, we're polluting ourselves. And when we destroy the earth to extract uranium, we're destroying ourselves.
We spoke with an NB Power spokesperson who says they have run the plant safely and efficiently for 25 years and plan to continue to do so for the next 25. They say the improvements are needed to keep rates low for all New Brunswickers. It will take 6 weeks before NB Power knows whether their license will be renewed. Until then, Point LaPro remains powerless. For Stu Journalism,
Physical activity may not be the only thing that's difficult for New Brunswick smokers in the future.
The New Brunswick branch of the Canadian Cancer Society is igniting a flame under the provincial government. They're lobbying to raise tobacco taxes in hopes of deterring people from smoking. This could create over $20 million in revenue for the province. Viola Pruss has more on the story.
Heidi Yuckelman has smoked since she was 12 years old. Last year, it almost killed her.
I'm asthmatic, so I shouldn't be smoking in the first place. It's put a really big hit on my lungs, for sure. In and out of the hospital. I actually nearly died last July. They had me in the trauma unit for 4 days.
Almost 5 million Canadians 15 years and older smoke. Recent statistics show the average number of smokers in New Brunswick is 2% higher than the national average. The province has the second lowest rate of tax on tobacco in the country. A carton of cigarettes costs about $79, compared to almost $100 in Nova Scotia. Rosemary Boyle is the Senior Manager of Prevention with the New Brunswick Canadian Cancer Society in St. John. She thinks a raise in tax would help people to kick the habit.
Smoking and smoking-related diseases cause millions and millions of dollars in healthcare spending in this province. So over time, you have fewer people smoking, then we'll have fewer smoking-related death and disability. Smoking is the #1 cause of preventable death and disability in Canada.
According to a study by the World Bank, a 10% increase in the cost of tobacco reduces consumption by 4. Rosemary Boyle is hoping $5 extra a carton could bring the necessary change. For Stu Journalism, I'm Viola Pruss.
Physical activity may not be the only thing that's difficult for New Brunswick smokers.
Hey again. Officer Square was a great location, wasn't it?
Was it ever?
Unfortunately, it was too cold for our equipment and personnel, so we moved it back to the studio.
Even in minus 30-degree weather, people are enjoying a summer glow. Last year, New Brunswick lifted the ban on underage tanning and adopted new voluntary tanning guidelines. As Anna Frenzowich reports, 2 Fredericton salons are taking the rules very seriously.
Research has shown that there's a higher risk of developing skin cancer if you've tanned indoors, but this warning hasn't put a dent in the tanning industry. In the United States, the tanning industry brought in $2.6 billion last year. Popular television shows seem to glamorize the bronzed glow. Stephanie Swindale has been tanning since she was 15. Her parents never knew.
A lot of it's like you see celebrities are tanned, and Jersey Shore is all popular now, and they're seen as sexy and stuff. So I don't know. I just think tan is more appealing to as a look, I guess. Yeah.
Up until last year, no one under the age of 18 should have been basking in tanning beds in New Brunswick. Recently, voluntary guidelines have been introduced. Of Fredericton's half-dozen tanning salons, Northside Tanning is one that is complying with the new rules. They post the recommendations in every tanning booth.
Children under the age of 18, we have told them that they have to have their parent come in with them to get consent. They sign a form, and the parent has to sign with them. We indicate to each customer that they do have to wait 48 hours before tanning again.
Northside Tanning says only 2% of its clientele is under the age of 18. A lot of Northside's customers tend to get what they perceive as a healthy dose of vitamin D, or to get a base tan before a tropical vacation. But the Canadian Cancer Society warns that this is a myth. A base tan doesn't protect a person from a sunburn, and vitamin D is safer if taken as a supplement. For Stu Journalism, I'm Anna Frenzowich.
Although Fredericton is covered in white, cities in Canada are calling it a national green leader. It is the 4th out of over 200 cities to take the final step to reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Alyssa Mosier has more on the story.
Fredericton has been on the road to reducing pollution known as greenhouse gas emissions since 2000. The city is a member of the Partners for Climate Change program. The program challenges cities to take the steps to begin reducing greenhouse gases. Fredericton is the first city east of BC to complete the 5th and final step of the program. Alicia Morehouse is the climate change coordinator for the city. She says Fredericton has always been a leader.
So it really puts us among an elite group of leaders across the country. So for us, it means that we are doing things right. We're setting a positive example.
But while other cities are impressed, Morehouse says Fredericton isn't sure it has met its own goals.
The mayor has said that we don't make decisions just because they're trendy or cool. We make them because it's important for our community. It's a sustainable decision, and it's a decision that will, lead us down a positive road.
The Director of Environmental Research here at UNB, Sean Dalton, says that Fredericton has it relatively easy because it's a government town instead of an industrial one. She also says that Fredericton went green for financial reasons long before global warming hit the stage. In 6 months, the city will find out if it has stuffed this type of pollution in the bag. That's when Fredericton will know exactly how much it has reduced greenhouse gas emissions. For Stu Journalism, I'm Alyssa Mosier.
The effects of climate change may be taking their toll on other parts of the province.
It's been a hard month for families in St. George, New Brunswick. Flooding devastated the small town on the Fundy shore. Carissa Donkin reports on location about what happens next.
The Macadavic River is calm now, but it wasn't on December 13th. It rained so hard, so quickly, it turned these calm waters into a nightmare. In St. George, many families had to leave their homes in a hurry. No one was killed in the flood, but many people watched a lifetime of work float away.
We tried to get a family to tell us their story on camera, but the residents we spoke to were scared of ruining their chances for government money. One family who spoke to us off camera told us that their future is literally flooded with uncertainty.
Even a month later, there are still signs of the disaster. Only months ago, tourists flocked here. But now, the building sits off base, like many lives in this small town. 100 kilometers away in Fredericton, university students are among those trying to help. At St. Thomas University, the Students' Union is working with campus ministry to raise money. The union is willing to match up to $1,000 of student donations. The Canadian Red Cross will use the money to buy things you might not think of.
I think that we conceive of aid in a really, sometimes in a superficial way. We think like, oh, sandbags or, rice or water or something like that. And that may not be what people need. They may need legal assistance. They may need psychological assistance or counseling and stuff, which also costs money.
With millions of dollars in damage, provincial officials are deciding the future of many St. George families. For Stu Journalism in St. George and Fredericton, I'm Carissa Donkin.
And now, let's take an in-depth look at another devastating natural disaster. It's been a year since Haiti has been turned upside down, and the country is still a mess. International relief efforts have been slow.
Millions of Haitians are living in tents, and many don't even have clean water. Amy McKenzie looks at what some New Brunswickers are doing to help.
It's the dead of winter in Fredericton. Many New Brunswickers head south, but one group from Fredericton isn't going for the warm weather. They're going to help. Haiti was already the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. When the earthquake hit last year, their poorly constructed buildings crumbled. Almost 250,000 people died, and millions were left homeless. Bernie Zebarth happened to be there doing some charity work when the earthquake struck.
So at the time of the earthquake, initially there was this rumbling sound, which I believe now is all the concrete buildings basically collapsing. And there was a pall of dust came up from that. But the big thing we heard was the sounds. So we were, again, because we were up high, you could hear the sounds coming up from the city, almost like a wail of people, a lot of it in distress, because this is their homes collapsing, and a lot of times it's collapsing on the people. But also some people just crying out and thankfulness that they were okay, like they survived.
Bernie will fly down next month with a group called Freddie Link. They raise money and awareness for a community in Haiti that they're helping to develop.
My expectation is that it will be hard to see, right? I mean, the reason we're going is because of the poverty.
While eco-groups such as Freddie Link are still helping, many in Haiti are still without help, without a home and without basic necessities, and they're living in conditions like this. The statistics are grim. Susan Johnson from the Red Cross says that the lack of organization among the aid organizations is slowing down relief efforts.
There are so many organizations that came into Haiti trying to do the right thing, and a lot of them without a lot of experience. And when you have that happening, you get a lot of organizations coming in with materials that might not be appropriate, people that don't have the experience. It really does actually gum up the system.
Johnson says another problem they face is trying to find who is the most needy.
Finish off Trick's chapter 3.
Sean Narine is a professor of international relations at St. Thomas University. He says the instability of the Haitian government is making matters worse.
The Haitian authorities don't want foreigners to be running around the country doing all kinds of things without going through the Haitian government first. At the same time, the foreigners are sort of saying, well, if we wait around for you to get your act together, we'll never do anything at all. But in the end, it seems like the government has had enough authority, enough power to block the foreigners from doing very much, while at the same time not having a very much authority or ability to carry out the sorts of initiatives it needs to actually alleviate the suffering of the Haitian people.
Narine says that outside pressure from the international community, such as economic incentives for the Haitian government, could speed the process along. But until then, millions of Haitians are suffering every day, and organizations as large as the Red Cross and as small as Freddie Link will just have to do the best they can under the circumstances. And for Bernie Zebarth, he knows that what he will see when he goes to Haiti is only a taste of the misery the Haitians deal with every day. For Stu Journalism, I'm Amy McKenzie.
Icy sidewalks and steps can be bad news for anyone, but for seniors especially, one slip can be a death sentence. As Haley Ryan tells us, one Fredericton couple has found a way to stay safe.
Oh, I got a skip rope. I thought I had a 10 up.
You want to use it?
Bob and Dee James like to play cards together when they're not working. However, two scary falls this winter could have dealt the happy couple a different hand. Dee fell down a flight of stairs at a friend's house, but was lucky enough to walk away from it. They're laughing now, but at the time it really scared Bob.
She had a lot of bruise, yeah, a lot of bruise. And she's still sore in some spots. Can't name them, but...
After Dee's fall, the Jameses found a new use for rubber mats. These no-slip mats are now on their front porch and steps. For about $30, you can buy these mats in the seasonal section at most Fredericton hardware stores. According to government statistics, in 2008 alone, nearly 1,000 seniors were admitted to a New Brunswick hospital after a serious fall. Almost half of those involved hip fractures.
Because when, at our age, if you fall and break your hip, you have to go in for surgery, and that's everything else, and the upkeep after that comes along with getting a hip replacement and everything. So you save a lot of money in the long run there for the sake of a few dollars for these mats.
Unlike the Jameses, who can enjoy a game of cards in their own dining room, a third of seniors who need hip surgery may never return home. They move from a hospital like this one to a nursing home bed.
With the steadily increasing older population, slips and hip fractures will continue to be a huge issue for Canadian healthcare. All one can do is take some safety precautions, like the Jameses, and watch your step. For Stu Journalism, I'm Haley Ryan.
St. Thomas is looking into gender and equality issues on campus. After an alleged attack on a transgendered student last semester, administration is looking to flush out discrimination. Hillary Smith has more on the story.
Going to the bathroom isn't always a relief, especially for the handful of transgendered students at St. Thomas University. These students often feel out of place in traditional washrooms. That includes 19-year-old Stephanie Boucher-Bouchard, also known as Aiden in the trans community. The second year believes gender is a spectrum. Stephanie appears feminine, but is more in touch with her male side. Though she has no immediate plans for a sex change, she plans to have a breast reduction. Stephanie prefers to use a gender-neutral bathroom on principle.
There's two in Edmund Casey, for example, and George Martin is full of them, but at the same time, most of my classes are in Margaret McCain and Brian Mulrooney, and I don't have time to run in the middle of a class down to George Martin to go to the bathroom.
There are 30 bathrooms on campus, not counting those in residence. Of those, the university claims 19 can be classified as unisex. This means a single lockable bathroom. Jeffrey Carlton, spokesman for St. Thomas, said he knows the situation isn't perfect. The university has struck up a committee to look into gender issues.
It's on our radar screen for facilities management. It's on our radar screen for equity and making sure that we're as equitable as we can possibly be. So that's where changes and things like that gradually come about over time.
I'm standing in front of Sir James Dunn Hall, where there are no unisex bathrooms. Last semester, Mitch Rayner, a transgendering student, was allegedly assaulted in one of these bathrooms. Carlton said that James Dunn is a difficult building to renovate because the bathroom facilities are already so large. For Stu Journalism, I'm Hillary Smith.
Fredericton has had a lot of snow this winter, but the weather couldn't be better for skiing. Alex Wiedinghoff has a story on how the city's international community is hitting the slopes.
Kichi Choi is a 10-year-old boy from South Korea. His family moved to Canada 4 years ago, and he loves to ski for one main reason.
I like to go really fast.
Kichi isn't the only person who braved the minus 18-degree weather instead of nestling by the fireplace. For the workers at Crab Mountain Ski Resort, the foot of snow makes skiing easier. But for members of Fredericton's international community who are new to the activity, it's tougher because some speak little English. That's where James Batty comes in. He is one of the instructors at Crab Mountain. He has learned the best way to help the immigrants get the most out of their experience.
There are some other challenges. It's really important to visually communicate what you're saying, and most of the time they'll understand. They do have a basic concept of English, so use simple words.
Stephen Billings is the Promotions and Marketing Director at CRAB. He says that the Multicultural Association of Fredericton helps to get its members to the Hill through the bus passes.
Anytime you can see someone who's never seen snow, never been on snow, it's a really neat feeling to kind of see them out on the mountain and that look on their face like, wow, this is incredible. So,
with help from instructors like Batty and the Multicultural Association, Fredericton's immigrants will be going head over heels for skiing for a long time. For Stu Journalism, I'm Alex Wiedinghoff.
The force is growing strong in Fredericton, and it offers a great alternative to outdoor sports. Star Wars fans no longer have to go to a galaxy far, far away to get a taste of the popular fantasy films.
East Coast Sabres is a new club based in Fredericton.
This is Brock McCullough. He was in a car crash years ago and says playing conventional sports aggravates old injuries. And he says lightsaber dueling is a great alternative for him.
Perfect. It's exercise, gives me something to focus on, keeps my attention divided so that I'm not worrying about too many things.
He is one of a dozen people here tonight at the Priestman Street School gym. This is Brad Doucette. He's the creator of East Coast Sabres. It's the first lightsaber dueling club in Atlantic Canada.
I've been into this for years. I've been collecting these, and yeah, I'm a big Star Wars fan, but it's not really about Star Wars.
It's also about his sons. His oldest, Mackenzie, is here to support his dad and polish up on his technique. Brad's youngest isn't old enough to join the group, but his wife says Lucas has been immersed in Star Wars culture since birth. And if you ask Brad, they named him after famous Star Wars producer George Lucas.
The light actually travels up the blade.
Brad is self-taught in the ways of the Jedi and says everything that he's learned can be found online. His favorite site is Wikipedia, a branch of Wikipedia completely dedicated to Star Wars. He stresses that lightsaber dueling is essentially learning complex choreography.
This is not a self-defense course. This is not a martial arts course. It's a dance course, basically.
East Coast Sabres have made a few changes since their first meeting. Classes will now be held here at the Winners Lounge on the exhibition grounds. They will now be charging a $15 membership fee to help cover the cost of renting space. For Stu Journalism, I'm Samantha McGee. May the Force be with you.
That's our show for today. Thanks for tuning in.
We'll be back in a couple of weeks, but you can catch us anytime at nbbeacon.ca.
Bye.
Échapper à la belle qui te rêve en couleur. Il faudrait pour lui plaire être un bum au grand cœur. L'enlever en moto en citant du Rimbaud. Mais revenir à temps pour le biberon 4 heures. Échapper à toutes celles qui te voient au sommet.